So we are here at LEAF 2012, and what do you do at Stanford?
So at Stanford, I'm the director of a program called the BiblioTech Program, and what I'm doing is trying to bring together, trying to bridge the gap between people who do PhDs in core humanities disciplines with industry, create different partnerships between industry and what I call humanities professionals, to see if we can find new partnerships, new innovation in the coming together of these two worlds.
So is the point that all the humanities topics are relevant in companies like Google and Facebook and all that? Mm-hmm. Is that what you're suggesting, or is it actually happening?
I'm definitely suggesting that, and it is happening. One of the huge components of what I do is to kind of create internships that are geared especially for people who have advanced degrees, such as a doctorate in a humanities discipline. And so we're starting to bring people into different kinds of companies. We have brought someone into an a very innovative advertising company, also into content. Obviously, that's an easy match. And then we're in the process of working with a big Fortune 500 company that's heavily scientific and research-driven to actually bring humanists onto those teams in order to help solve 21st century problems. Because really, the danger in big data, the danger in believing that solutions are only arrived at through technology in and of itself, then we kind of lose the human component. So we believe that it's essential to have that perspective on the team, not to take the place, but to be added.
So the humanities is, for example, philosophy,
right,
literature, stuff
yes,
like that?
Yes, exactly. So at Stanford we have 11 classified humanities departments. Among them are literatures and languages, English, history, philosophy, religious studies, the classics, music, art history. I probably left someone out. Religious studies. So there are 11. If you wanted to learn more, you could go to our website, which is bibliotech.stanford.edu.
And research in humanities is done in a scientific manner, or is it, or not?
Well, that's a big question. I'd say, first off, no. No, it's a different approach, and my belief and our belief is that approach is essential. It's a very important approach not to lose, not to let slip away. That said, there are new fields emerging, such as digital technology, or digital humanities, I want to say, where humanists are programming and analyzing text in a quote-unquote scientific way, if we can say so. So there's definitely, we're living in a time now where we're kind of moving toward an interdisciplinarian model. So it's not to say that a computer scientist can't learn how to, our way of learning, our method. Our method, I would say, the difference. So a humanities method is, in a way, it's a very entrepreneurial. In a sense, I think we're the one area in which people are taught from the beginning an entrepreneurial model, because we have to read a broad range of material and then assess the need, what's new, and then create a product around that. So and it's never, we're not learning a bunch of data. We're learning unstructured data, yes, but we're not learning a lot of codified data. So it's a different way of thinking. It teaches skills such as flexible thinking. Whole array, but that are a little bit different than the scientific method.
So a PhD in literature would know how to find books in the library, for example. Is that something like that, or is not exactly? Is anything related to that, or?
Well, a PhD in literature would also would have learned. Well, there's a lot that happens in a PhD. So one, you have to learn how to be self-reliant, very disciplined. Be able to make decisions based on imperfect information. You need to be able, at the PhD level, you're carrying out an enormous project that you are working with a team of people on, in the sense that you're working with professors to establish, to really kind of hone your ideas into a full-length book So you need to have the stamina, the intellectual curiosity. A lot of times, especially in languages, we're teaching, we're in charge of our own courses, so we receive a lot of professional development along the way, which translates to project management skills, leadership skills, team management skills, public speaking skills, presentational skills. I mean, the list is kind of it's a long list of what a lot of people may term soft skills, but I would say that I think Louis Maynard, I recently read, calls the endeavor of studying the humanities. You're receiving kind of like your intellectual DNA that should serve you in many contexts, and I do believe that that's largely true.
So you just held a presentation here at LIFT.
Yes.
And is it based on your research or?
Well, so I did my doctorate work in 17th century French literature. I worked on theater, but this is a good example. So while my dissertation was about theater, especially Racine's theater, all of the work I've done around that, all the many courses I've taken, all the many books I've read, all the many papers I've written, is about many aspects. So it was interesting when the internet, when social media got going, even when the internet got going, to be able to then really find some very strong parallels between the two periods. And so that really interested me, and I started to do a little bit of research on that. And so I would say that this experience is one that I think is valuable in carrying forth the message of BiblioTech as well, because I do find it important to understand the history of something. And I think it does help to make better decisions today, or to understand how things will work better or worse today, and how we might, make better decisions to make them better for the future. So it's been a good experience.
So you were talking about information overload. It's not a new thing?
Yes, that's what I was talking about.
How old is it?
I think it's as old as the world. So my argument was sort of a transcendental argument, saying that information overload has existed, as long as humans have existed. Therefore, it's part of the human condition. And I make that argument in the sense because we can trace it throughout history. Comments made. I started with Plato, Seneca, or Ecclesiastes, Seneca. Then into the 17th century, Descartes, and then 18th century, Diderot, and then of course today. And what we see is a very consistent message that information overload has existed throughout, since the ancient times, in medieval times, early modern times, and today. And the interesting curious factor is that it's always perceived as new and particular to each era. So if we can understand that, I think that helps us to. I think that could help to better, create better tools. Even just knowing that it's something that's with us all the time, and that will be with us, and so to maybe make greater leaps in our search tools and our sorting tools, summarizing tools. I would hope.
So you were talking about that blogging was invented 500 years ago, or what do we say? And Twitter was. I mean, what are you saying?
I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that Twitter.com, popped up in 15th century Florence, but what I am saying is that similar endeavors took place that really kind of parallel each other. So we were talking earlier that before the advent of the newspaper, which I explained today in France, was kind of the innovation of Théophraste Renaudot, but as with all innovation, it's kind of standing on the shoulders of those who have come before. And before that actual journal got created, there were individuals such as yourself who had their own blog, in the sense that they had their own. They were the personal news source for somebody. Perhaps someone at the court would hire you to go get all of the good news and good juicy news in Paris and bring it back. And over time, and those were handwritten, a lot of them were handwritten to get around the censors, so they enjoyed a freedom such as you do, that you don't have to go through editors and whatnot.
So nobody's ever going to be able to read all the books, watch all the YouTube videos. So
no.
What are we supposed to do then? Just somehow limit what we do?
Well, I think first off, one can change one's perception to no longer believe that one's going to be able to do that, right? So therefore you kind of lessen your anxiety at the get-go. And then I think, just I don't know, just employing certain discernment or judgment, or I think this is this is a need that has created a lot of opportunity for online ventures, right? So we have lots of rating websites, but those are now, but then that information is now even becoming overloaded. So you're only seeing the top of the iceberg of the information, and all of so if you want to read, look for a new good book, everybody's going for teens, it'll say Twilight, say, but that might be a fraction of what's really been being talked about and rated. So then you get into different types of data collection and analysis, and probably the next generation. So just refining tools, but at a personal level, I think one just has to, it's kind of, I remember way back when finding the best book in the library seemed to be one that you just stumble upon. I mean, it wasn't one that was searched in the catalog, wasn't one searched in the, so there's a bit of, serendipity in life that.
So if you could talk with a Google CEO right now and tell them to do something, you would tell them to hire more people in the humanities, or what would you tell them, like more specifically?
Well, I do think Google is open to hiring people from the humanities, and I know that they do. So I do know that I wouldn't have to do too much convincing. But yes, I do think that Google needs people from the humanities. They're doing a lot of things, digital humanities, search. I do think the discernment, like you asked me, so who has learned over the course of their, this kind of discerning which books should be included in a reading list for somebody who's going to come out of a PhD in Spanish literature. Then not only is that, not only the books, but the criticism around those books. There's a discernment that takes place, a savoir-faire that's developed in terms of judgment, what critics are better than others. So I do think that we, again, are learning those skills as PhD students in literature, history, religious studies, and we could then probably help to quicken the process along. We may not come up with the answer right away, but with certainly, I think our value could be in quickening the steps to the solution.
For example, Steve Jobs was an artist. He wasn't a programmer, right? So. Right.
Well, he was an artist and a programmer. I mean,
he could program.
I don't know if he could program.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I don't know. Maybe not.
I'm sure. I don't know. And so.
So maybe it's good to have people like artistic in the top
of
companies.
Absolutely. I think artists, writers, professors they're all entrepreneurs. I mean, they're all creating something new. So there's this, DNA there that is helpful in the design process for sure.
So when is your next conference? You make conferences? You organize?
Well, actually, I'm organizing a conference. Our next conference, BiblioTech Conference, will be at Stanford University on May 10th from 8 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon. And so I'd encourage everybody to.
Do you make videos of it, put on the internet?
We do, and we usually live stream, and then afterwards curate the videos. So yes, those will be available after the conference.